In the strict language of game theory, traditional chess is defined as a two-player, zero-sum, perfect information game. Every piece is visible, and the rules dictate a finite set of alternating moves. Because the exchange of material on the board is 100% certain, the game operates as a solvable exercise in combinatorial logic. If an attacking piece moves to an occupied square, the defending piece is removed. There is no variance. Actual warfare operates under completely different conditions. Combat is governed by what military theorists call friction, the chaotic, unpredictable degradation of plans upon contact with the enemy, compounded by hidden intelligence and spatial uncertainty. Standard chess fails as a simulation for actual combat because it lacks this friction. To convert the board into a viable military proxy, we have to mathematically destroy its deterministic perfection and inject stochastic variance. The first structural change required is replacing guaranteed captures with a simultaneous conflict resolution mechanic. Instead of an automatic take, both players roll a pair of six-sided dice to determine the outcome of an attack. Each piece is assigned a base numerical value. We use the pawn to establish the baseline unit value of 1. More powerful pieces scale up from that baseline, with the rook carrying a higher unit value of 5. When an attack is declared, the equation is simple. The attacker's base value plus their dice roll is weighed directly against the defender's base value plus their dice roll. This introduces the concept of outcome independence. Because the dice determine the victor, a poor roll means an attacking piece can actually be defeated and removed from the board during its own turn. The only exception is the king. By assigning the king a massive base value of 200, it becomes mathematically impossible to defeat with dice. This ensures the traditional win condition of checkmate remains intact. By replacing absolute certainty with probability, players can no longer rely on simple material counting. Every potential capture forces players to evaluate the expected value, the statistically anticipated average payoff of a decision, and manage the threat of a high-variance failure. This chart maps the specific probability distributions of stochastic combat. Look specifically at the pawn versus rook graph. The overlapping triangles show exactly how the addition of dice rolls creates a distinct statistical curve for success, failure, and a new third outcome. While superior base material still provides a mathematical advantage, the variance ensures total vulnerability. When pieces of equal base value engage in combat, the probability of the attacker winning drops sharply to just 44.4. This branching probability tree highlights the anomaly in the new data, the 11.2% chance that an engagement results in a mathematical tie. When scores tie, no pieces are removed. The exchange remains active, effectively locking both pieces into a multi-turn struggle. By the second ply, a single turn taken by one player, the odds of remaining locked drop, and by the third ply, the probability of an ongoing draw falls to just 0.14. In the standard Queen's Gambit accepted opening, black captures the c4 pawn. The goal is to gain an immediate material advantage, accepting a slight disadvantage in centerboard development as the cost. But in battle chess, taking that c4 pawn is not a guaranteed acquisition. The expected value of the square recalculates drastically. Because a pawn versus pawn combat triggers a roll of 4 distinct six-sided dice, there are 1,296 possible combinations. When calculating the exact win, loss, and tie probabilities across those combinations, the expected value of accepting the gambit collapses from a certain 1 down to roughly 0.4.
If black takes the risk and the roll fails, the strategic penalty is severe. Their attacking piece is destroyed, and white is left entirely free to seize the center of the board unchallenged. The presence of stochastic captures actively dismantles standard book openings. Players are forced out of pattern memorization and into constant real-time calculation, weighing minor positional compensation against the very real probability of total material loss. We can push the model further by moving from perfect information to double-blind play. Mediated by an umpire, the opponent's pieces are hidden from view and only revealed when a player moves within an adjacent vision radius, introducing true spatial uncertainty. Simply advancing a piece into an empty square now requires a compound probability equation. The risk of the move is defined as EV equals PP times EV-X plus 1 minus PP times EV-S. To solve for the expected value of the move, players calculate the probability an opponent is present in the fog, PP, and multiply it by the expected value of a combat exchange.
This is weighed against the expected value of simply occupying a safe square, which sits at 0. This dynamic forces a doctrine of reconnaissance pull. Players must utilize low-value pawns as disposable intelligence gatherers, sending them forward to trigger partial board reveals before committing larger assets. The alternative is command push. This involves moving a high-value piece, like the queen, blindly into the fog. The player relies entirely on the piece's high base value to survive any unexpected ambushes it might trigger. To simulate intelligence breakthroughs, an optional mechanic requires a dice roll at the start of each turn. Rolling an 11 or 12, an 8.3% probability, instantly reveals the opponent's exact board state for that round. With the board shrouded and combat outcomes tied to dice, the tactical framework is entirely upended. The game no longer rewards the execution of pre-planned sequences. It demands active, high-stakes intelligence gathering. Modern artificial intelligence has definitively solved standard chess, but these two mathematical interventions, dice rolls and hidden information, expose the limitations of how those chess engines actually function. Traditional chess programs rely on minimax algorithms. A minimax algorithm searches through a massive decision tree of possible moves to minimize potential losses while maximizing guaranteed gains. It works perfectly because the board provides perfect information. The injection of dice rolls breaks this clean pathfinding. The AI must multiply its nodes into massive probability clouds, shifting to a computationally heavy expect-a-minimax model. An expect-a-minimax algorithm attempts to evaluate the average outcome over these new, unpredictable chance nodes. Adding the fog of war turns entire branches of the decision tree black. Without perfect spatial data, an optimal path cannot be guaranteed. Under standard rules, an AI can calculate dozens of moves ahead, but the combined weight of probability clouds and hidden intelligence restricts the computer's reliable look-ahead horizon to merely 2 or 3 plies. By introducing chance and uncertainty, the brute force computational advantage of modern chess engines is neutralized. The machine is brought back down to the analytical limitations of a human commander. A system that is adversarial, subject to chance, defined by spatial uncertainty, and adjudicated by rules, precisely meets the formal criteria for a military wargame. Programming an AI to successfully navigate this double-blind stochastic game state represents an immense computational challenge. The algorithm must learn to function without perfect logic. If an AI can be trained to solve this specific expect-a-minimax problem, the architecture could be integrated into actual military command systems, processing chaotic field variables to shorten operational decision cycles. Traditional chess is a monument to perfect logic. By destroying that mathematical perfection, we inadvertently create a highly scalable, mathematically rigorous mirror for the unpredictable reality of war.